Welcome to this Flight Simulator update movie. Last week, the first big update for aircraft was released for Flight Simulator 2020. And I'm talking about the update for the famous flyer number 7, the Mitsubishi Heavy Industries MU-2, as well as the Expert Series ATR 42600 72600. So if we start with the first one, right, the Mitsubishi, not so many fixes, but still a few. First of all, there was an issue with the heading bug can become misaligned when passing the 360 degrees. That's being fixed, as well as an issue where the aircraft could not be started under cold conditions, right? And especially last week here in the Netherlands, it was pretty cold. So if you were there and if you would have flown with the Mitsubishi, it could have, let's say, failed to start, right? When you used, for example, Schiphol as your starting airport. The last fix for the famous fly number 7 is to reduce the ambient occlusion reflectiveness of the cockpit. So they made some changes for the to the graphic settings of the cockpit. Then going to the Expert Series number 1, that's the first one, right? So let's say, I think it was in one of the developer videos, they announced that there will be, let's say, follow-ups on the Expert Series, but it will take some time. Likely due to the highly detailed aircrafts and the highly detailed systems which are required to be developed to mean or to fall under this category. In this case, the ATR 42600 72600 version 1.0.36. So first of all, they added a marker for the max throttle position to calibration window, right? That's the max throttle. That's the position where you can put the throttle in. And in this case, it looks like that they made some change for the calibration window. And that's if you're using the throttle from a, let's say, joystick, right? You need to align it or calibrate it to make sure that it works appropriately. Then the next item is the EFB options items are rearranged. So they simply rearrange the options in the electronic flight pack. And then a lot of fixes. First of all, the nav sorts not switching to nav2 when V/ILS 2 is selected on the captain side. Then the second one is to fix the MFC test timing, right? So MFC test timing is when it tests the systems, and then after the tests have succeeded, it would return to the normal position, and there was an issue with that. As well as the center of gravity graph coordinate calculation was not 100% correct. Then inside the EFB, they also released a new option for the display unit click spot help or overlay, right? So there was an issue with that. And they now simply fixed the help overlay, which gives you some more guidance. As well as they added a click spot help overlay to the MFD and Echo Whiskey Delta. Graphics are placeholders, so keep that in mind. So it's an overlay, but the graphics are placeholders. Then they changed the nose wheel steering to a new method without flighting control inputs. So I'm really, would say, wondering how that works with a joystick, but that's something I need to investigate. And if I found it out, I will post a video about it. Then continuing with the fixes. So first of all, they fixed the flight idle torque now drops to 0.0% in flight, as well as a gear leveler now locked in down position on the ground. Makes sense, right? Because you, let's say, do the gears up on the ground, then you're screwed. Then they fixed the program or the progress page, total distance, and EFOB calculation. There was an incorrect calculation. Based on some testing, I also figured it out. And I also fixed the power management knobs, animation synchronization has now been fixed. Continuing with the GW and the FOB indications on the EWD, not updating when engines are running, right? Those are, let's say, some fixes where they perhaps had some indications which were not updating correctly, but that's now being fixed. And they also removed something. They removed the automatic wind entry from perf approach page. So that's being removed. I'm not sure if they moved it to a different page. That's a little bit unclear from the release notes. Then continuing with the list, again, the VAP calculation on the perf approach page has been, I would say, fixed, as well as the roll hold mode, right? That's one of the autopilot modes, if I'm correct. That has been fixed. That didn't work 100% correct. Also, they added a workaround to reduce the prop RPM of engine number 2 in hotel mode to around 0. So there's a special mode where you can put the engines in, and then it should be around 0, right? Should be. So let's see if that really is the case. And they also fixed the en route holding or on route holding tracking, right? So on route holding is, I would say, if you've got, you say, climb, then you can then go into the en route holding mode, right? For the en route, which is, so say simply, okay, hey, the rest of the flight, and then you will go into decent mode, etc. And then they fixed an issue with that. Then also the PFD throttle hint state is now loaded from the config page, and the cabin compartment temperature is jumping. It jumped from, I would say, lower degrees to high degrees, if I'm correct. And that's now being fixed. Also, they removed COM3 radio from the systems.config, as well as they fixed the man cap alt default position to neutral, right? So manual cap, like the cabin, altitude has now been fixed, but not sure if cap stands for cabin. So if you know what cap stands for, then let me know via the comment box below this video. Then they fixed the source selection push button to show man when released, as well as they fixed the mode select push button to show man when released. So two buttons which they fixed now to go to manual mode when released. Going to the source selection and mode selection, the push buttons to be pressed in on loading, and that's now being fixed, as well as the landing elevation is now set to the destination airport runway elevation after activating the flight plan. So that's cool. Continuing with the list, they changed the default setting from for DH MDA knobs to MDA. So if you have these kind of buttons, which you can set either in DH or MDA mode, it will now default to MDA. As well as they removed the standby instrument barrel from synchronization to allow standard operating procedure of leaving it at local QNH. So they removed something. Then they made some corrections to the int RUT switches to spring-loaded 3-state switches. So they made some changes to the switches or how they're working, as well as they added a separate button for the ACW ground power on the EFB aircraft page. So again, EFB change. While we're talking about the EFB, another change is there. The aircraft state buttons not reaching on mouse over, right? So if you hovered over it with the mouse, they were not reacting. As well as they fixed the probes warnings with the ACW gens offline while airborne. Not seen that one specifically, to be honest. The amp meter indications are now fixed, as well as there's a bug where the AI's faults would not be shown in the MFD memo area, right? So if this fails, that should result in errors in the MFD memo, but that didn't work. They now fixed it. They activated the conditional drawing from certain PFD and MFD areas. So they made some, I would say, changes to that, as well as they fixed the bug where the ECL procedure version would not differentiate between proper brake test, brake set, or not set. And as you can see, the list continues and continues because there are still a lot of fixes, right? I think we're now roughly at 2/3 of it. So let's have a look at the other fixes. So again, an MFD fix with a VCP perf page, confirm takeoff data button not being updated, as well as the animation code for the CVR test and lightning for ground control button based on the Magnus description. The PFD MDA colored altitude shown, as well as the implemented the is procedure detail set method. Right, so this mostly is for third parties which like to control the aircraft with an external tool. So it looks like that they now implemented this specifically into the aircraft so you can use it. Then they fixed the power source for McCall horn, which should connect the DCE double S bus, as well as they fixed the EFB PAX loading related bug. So that's PAX loading, right? PAX stands for the passengers loading. So they fixed something there. They implemented the cockpit door state dependent on the MFD vid image. So you have got, I would say, the vid image, right, which shows you an image of who's in front of the door. They fixed something there, as well as they added multiple local VARs for third-party virtual co-pilot implementations. So you can now also use those third-party products which are adding a virtual co-pilot that's now being added. Then with that, we're still not there because there's still some fixes to go. So the second MCDU is sometimes locked on a different page than menu, and they fixed a bug that could cause a negative distance calculation for waypoint following a route discontinuity, right? So route discontinuity, most cases that happens if you would say remove or if you add a, for example, standard terminal approach route, then you will have a discontinuity line in between, and in some cases that would result in issues in this case. Then they fixed the bug in the EFB weight calculations. So that's something which you uh, can can now use more correctly, right? So there are no partial passengers, so weights might deviate a bit. So it's still not 100% correct, but at least better than it was. And they added support for three-letter airport codes in the United States. So that's cool, right? That was not possible to enter a three-letter airport code. That's now being fixed. Then the DME distance calculation has been fixed, as well as potential crash in the DME arc drawing function. Maybe they're related to each other, not sure. They added a new loading tips localizations, as well as the waypoint 1500 feet above the airport level if no city selected. So then a new waypoint will be added. The DTO subpages showing the first listed waypoint is active, as well as the approach speed remaining selected on after the FMS reset at the end of the flight. Then the MFD sys cabin page, not reflecting the temperature mode, right? So manual or auto, you can set it to manual, then you can set the temperature manually, or you can set it to auto, then it will go to the temperature which you set, as well as the COM2 radio not reaction to reducing volume to 0. That specifically is for VATSIM, as you can see. Then they fixed the gear extending retracting without hydraulics and note sound not in sync yet. So that's something which they will likely fix in the future. As well as they fixed a bug which could cause the DC Gen 2 to show fault if only engine 2 was running. Last fix from the list is they fixed an engine could not be started after shutdown by pulling the fire handle. Right, that's normally only done when the engine is really on fire. That's also now being there. Here it says repair engine button added to the EFB, right? So that's probably something you need to push to reset the engine in the correct state. So as you can see, this list for that expert series number 1 is pretty long, while the famous Flyer 1, Flyer 7, as today is relatively short. So cool things. Might be the question how to get it. Well, that's really easy because you can go to the content manager, and the content manager in Flight Simulator would show the update, and then you can install it from there, and then you can enjoy these nice aircrafts because they're definitely a recommendation. I love flying those two, and then simply update them. Then you can benefit from all the fixes and also some small new functionality being added to both, or at least to the ATR 42600, not to the Mitsubishi one. Here ends this video where we looked at the release notes of the famous Flyer number 7 as well as the Expert Series number 1, which received a huge update last week, especially the last one. I hope you liked it. If you liked it, then consider to use the like button. If you got questions or comments, then feel free to post them in the comment box below. And if you want to stay up to date about new videos I'm posting, then make sure that you're subscribing to my channel. Thanks for watching and see you next time.